Okay, folks, we're right at noon. We're gonna give it another couple minutes to let a few more folks join. Okay, folks, I think we're gonna give it about one more minute and then we're gonna get started. As a reminder, I know it cued you all, but this is being recorded for folks who can't participate today or if there are further questions here. Okay, well, I think we are going to go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna mess with the setup real quick. There we go. So I'm gonna have, there are four of us presenting for you today. I'm gonna have each of us introduce ourselves as we kick it off. I am Allison Krause. I am the Director of State and Federal Government Relations for Portland State. And you're here today because you volunteered to be a team captain, which we really, really appreciate. We cannot make these days happen without those of you who are willing to help people get around the Capitol. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means after this, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. There are four of us trying to monitor the chat, so we will either try and answer your question in the chat if it comes up during it, or try and cue in our speaker friends as we're going. So welcome, thank you again so much, and happy 2024 University of Labadee Team Captain Training. So that was the welcome, first part of what you could expect today. We're going to kind of walk you through what the schedule is going to look like today, do kind of an overview of what the legislature looks like, particularly in a short session and what that means. We'll talk very briefly about the items that we're going to lobby on. We'll go into a bit more detail on those on our actual training day on Monday. We'll talk a little bit about what to expect in meetings, talk about your role as a team captain, talk about the materials you'll be receiving, and then, of course, end it with questions. So on the day of, and there are a few more people that will be added to this list, these are kind of your folks from the various institutions that you can contact if you have questions about the day. You will receive, your schedule of meetings and things like that. And we will get you contact phone numbers in the packet as well. So here's what's going on. Here's all our lead up to University Labadee Day 2024. Today, you guys are all here right now. Welcome to the training. On the 5th, so a week from today, same time, we're going to do our University Day more issue area training. It'll go a little bit over what to expect and the agenda for the day again, because that's for everyone. We'll also record it if you can't make that meeting as well. And official team assignments will be out by close of business on the Monday. If not, we're going to have an alarm go off in the middle of a meeting. If not, before then. So then on February 8th, If you signed up for transportation, that will be arranged by your own institution. You can expect to hear from them. And then you will all aim to arrive at Salem Western Oregon's campus at 11:30 a.m. between 11:30 and noon, and we'll have you come, get your name tag, get your lunch, down with your team, and then at about 12, we'll kick off a very short little program, allow you to chat with the folks that you'll be assigned a team with, and also we're going to try to do a group photo with all the mascots. And then from 1 to 5, we'll have our meetings in the Capitol with legislators. For those of you that haven't been to the Capitol, this will be, this will be our first for University Lobby Day. We have not done an in-person Lobby Day since 2020. For those of you that were here in 2020, the whole Capitol was open. For those of you that haven't been to the Capitol recently, half of the building is like not available because it's all under construction. So hopefully in 2 years when we do this again, we will have a fully open and functional Capitol, and we'll do more actually in the building. You can expect to have 3 to 5 meetings with legislators or their staff, and meetings are generally about 15 minutes long. So day of logistics, as I mentioned, your institution, if you said you need transportation, will be contacting you. And we will meet at the Salem campus at noon, and that'll kind of also be a spot you can come back to after the meeting. And then we will walk to and from the Capitol as needed. And if you signed up or need transportation assistance, we can provide that as well. I'm going to go ahead and answer the 2 questions in the chat, and then I'm going to kick it off to, I believe, the next person on my team. So there's a question about teams. The goal is to have teams, a mix of student, staff, faculty, and alumni from multiple institutions. Your team assignments are being worked on right now. These are if you're wondering if you get a team and you're like, why am I on this team? There are 3 reasons. 1, you currently live in that Senate district. 2, you grew up in that Senate district. And 3, we balanced the teams and you got moved around. So it's a little bit of trying to not have 20 people in one group and hit as many offices as possible. And the other question about slides, in addition to the recording, we'll make sure we go ahead and send these slides as well. When you will also be getting a link to a website, and we'll post the slideshow on the website as well. I am going to pass it on to my next colleague, which I believe is Joe Erickson.
Thank you, Allison. Joe Erickson here. I am the Director of Advocacy and Policy with the University of Oregon. Again, all of our gratitude for you taking the time to come to this team captain training and taking the time next week to join us in Salem. Your voices are critical to helping us do our work in Salem. But I wanted to give a brief overview of the Oregon legislature. I know this is a experienced group, but we still have a few fresh faces here who might not be familiar with the legislative process. And so wanted to briefly overview that before we continue. Oregon's Legislative Assembly has 2 chambers and they meet in Salem. In the House of Representatives, there are 60 members elected to 2-year terms. In the Senate, there are 30 members elected to serve 4-year terms. Each Senate district is comprised of 2 House districts combined into one. It's like a nest with 2 eggs in it. And when it comes to the legislative process, the Oregon legislature is a part-time legislature, meaning that they are not there full-time in Salem. In odd-numbered years, right after an election cycle, we have what is called a long session. That is where legislators meet to craft the state budget, which runs on a 2-year cycle, and pass large policy packages. It would be in a long session where your individual institution would have a lobby day just for their institution and their students and alumni. But we are in an even numbered year, which means we are in a short session. Short sessions are typically 5 weeks long. They start in February. The goal for a short session is to pass small policy fixes that the legislature didn't get to in the last long session, or address emergent issues that come up in between the long and the short session. Typically, there is a smaller amount of money for the legislature to work with to fund various policy packages. And in this case, as many of my colleagues would agree, as the years have gone on and we've had more short sessions, they typically expand in scope for what legislators are trying to do in that time. But due to the fact that it is a 5-week session, all of our Oregon Public Universities combine efforts for a joint advocacy lobby day where we can show off our collaboration, show off our amazing students, listen to them, hear their voices, and have them elevate our legislative agenda for the short session. I think we go to the next slide. And so when we're looking at these meetings, we are trying to do around 3 things in them. A, it's to thank legislators for their previous investments in the last long session where they crafted a state budget. B, it's to advocate for our short session priorities, which we'll go over in the next slide. And C, it is to elevate the voices of our students, alumni, staff, and advocates to show legislators that we have grassroots support in the building and that higher education is an issue that legislators should care about and that impacts their constituents directly. And so when looking at those 3 things in a meeting for the University Day, the first thing that we have our teams do when they're going to lobby members is to start with a thank you for the investments made in the previous long session. In this case, in 2023, the Oregon legislature made substantial investments for Oregon students. This is a longer list that we tried to nail down to the top 3, but we, in the 2023 session, got $1 billion for the Public University Support Fund, which goes to support our university operations across the state. We got $308 million for the Oregon Opportunity Grant, which was a nearly $100 million increase over the last biennium, and which is making substantial improvements when it comes to affordability for students that have the highest barriers of entry to school. They also made $24 million of investment into the Tribal Student Grant, which is a full cost of attendance grant for students who are members of Oregon's 9 federally recognized tribes. And so we ask that as you begin these meetings, whether it's you as a team captain or a delegated student, it's always important to start with this thank you and that recognition of the work that legislators put in to higher ed in the last session. It's a short amount of time between now and then, and it's always good to remind them of the work that they've done. Now, for the second part of our meeting, we are here to advocate for our 2024 legislative agenda across all of our Public 7 universities. We are what we call our coalition here of universities. It's called the Oregon Council of Presidents. And so in my mind, this is the Oregon Council of Presidents joint agenda, but is really our public university joint agenda here. And so there are 4 main policy priorities in that package that you will be advocating for. Number 1 is a student emergency needs package that does 2 things. It gives $5 million to our benefits navigators programs across our campuses and our basic need programs across our campuses. That will be grant dollars that can go immediately to impacting students when it comes to investments into our food pantries, investments into other areas that our basic needs navigators work with and our basic needs programs try to solve for students. So we have a $5 million package that goes directly into that. We also have a $1 million investment into the Open Educational Resources Program, which aims to really bring down the barriers when it comes to cost of textbooks. I have a stat here that says for every $1 invested into OERs, students get $12 in savings when it comes to textbooks and other course materials. It's an amazing program, and as part of the student emergency needs package, there would be a $1 million investment into OERs for the remainder of the biennium. Second up is our Strong Start funding. Strong Start is what we colloquially call our summer bridge programming, which we use across all of our 7 campuses. That was started during the pandemic as a way to, bridge the gap of need for students that were, coming to our universities and had, COVID learning loss from their K-12 experience. We have found there to be significant benefits for students who go through the program and actually, who actually complete the program and see these numerous benefits as they go through their collegiate career afterwards. And so we have gotten funding for Strong Start programs in previous bienniums. In the last long session, we got some funding, but not enough to cover our current services for the remainder of the biennium. So we are asking for $6 million to fill out that Strong Start funding. And then our next 2 focus more on the workforce development side of how universities impact the state of Oregon. First, we have the behavioral health workforce package that includes roughly $6.2 million to various programs at our campuses that are looking to expand and diversify Oregon's behavioral health workforce. And secondly, we are doing roughly the same thing for the semiconductor workforce and talent package, which is a $30 million package as a whole, which includes roughly $15 million of targeted investments to programs here at 4 of our 7 universities that will aim to expand Oregon's semiconductor workforce into the future. A lot of work has been done on the state and the federal side to, modernize and expand our chips development, across the nation and in Oregon. And this semiconductor workforce package aims to give us the supply of talent that we need to meet that demand in the state. I just went through a lot of materials. You will be given, a 1-pager and further talking points on all of these as we go through. But that's the basic summary. And then I will hand it off to, I think it's Charlie.
I know Charlie messaged me, he was having some internet issues. I'm just gonna, so Charlie, are you here with us? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start this. And if Charlie's able to join back in, we'll have him go ahead and take over for me. So I know that several of you have been team captains before, and almost all of you have attended a advocacy day, whether it was a university advocacy day or one for your specific institution. So this is kind of the things that we're asking you to do if you end up in a team captain role. And one of those things is connect with your team in advance of University Lobby Day. So when you get your team assignment, you will get it as a group email. So your whole team will be on the email saying you were assigned to team whatever. Sometimes we do numbers, sometimes we do senators' names. So let's say you're on team 1. Your team captain is Joe Erickson and Charlie Hall. This is your meeting schedule as we currently have it. You will also receive calendar invites to the email you provided with your meeting times. That also allows me to change them when I get a phone call from a legislator in the morning that moves your meeting, which is super fun. We'll also put your meetings on the website so you can look at them with pictures and bios and things like that. When you arrive to the Capitol, when you arrive to Salem, we plan to have tables with your team name on it. So you guys can gather together there, your folders will be there. We're asking that during the time you get there, you kind of connect with your team, you introduce yourself, you get to know one another. You talk about kind of who's gonna do what role in each meeting. And your teams will hopefully be 5 to 10 individuals. You will see in your email if they are smaller or bigger. But the goal is to have about 3 equal sized groups. So as I mentioned during that lunch, you're going to kind of talk about different things. If you are or have a student in the group, and you have a story that can talk about, like if you had an experience with food insecurity, if you had a student who had an experience with food insecurity, you can connect that to the basic needs package. If you from the behavioral health workforce and that's what you do, you can talk about the value there. So kind of figure out who can connect to the different parts on the agenda and kind of assign roles for those meetings. Additionally, it's great to have we would like you to have a note taker in that meeting. If any questions come out, it is never bad to say, I don't know. I will have someone follow up with you. That's better than making up an answer because often that sticks in their head and we don't want the wrong information getting stuck in people's heads. So write it down, record it, and we'll make sure someone from one of the 7 public universities follows up. Additionally, if anyone shares anything like, oh, Senator Golden's son went to University of Oregon, write that down. Those are great things that we may not be aware of, and it's just useful information. Additionally, we'd love for you to take a photo on your cell phone or someone's cell phone and post those online. We will have on your folder, there will be a hashtag for the day that you guys can use to post it on social media. And when we send a follow-up email, we'll probably that we thank everyone for attending and give you the self-evaluation survey, the day of evaluation survey. We ask that you send in photos to us as well, so we have a record of them. And then finally, we will have thank you cards in your team captain folder. It's just one card for each legislator. If you guys as a team after each meeting, if you have a little time, write a little note thanking them and have your whole team sign. We will have a box probably between 3 and 5 p.m. We'll have wonderful Cassidy, who is going to speak after me, I believe, with a box that says thank you cards, and just make sure you turn them in at the end of the day, and the university folks will make sure we get those off. So you will have a packet of information for your team. And that's going to include a list of the people on your team, your schedule for the day. We'll have biographical information on those legislators, extra copies of the shared agenda. They will be going out to legislative offices in the morning, but they are useful to have when you're in a meeting and you want to talk about things, and thank you cards. So Cassidy, I believe this is you.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everybody. My name is Cassidy Cotter. My pronouns are she, they, and I am Oregon Tech's Assistant Director of Government Relations. I'll be closing us out this afternoon with some information about meetings with our legislators and just some other meeting logistics. So to begin, as we all know, meetings will be held in person at the Capitol. We're going to be assigning you all to groups of about 5 to 10 other advocates, depending on how many folks we have after the registration closes. Most of you will probably be able to attest to the fact that meetings with legislative members are usually about 15 minutes long. I think sometimes if we're lucky, we can get about 20, 25, but definitely plan to be able to give your spiel within those 15 minutes. Obviously, it's really important to also do your research prior to your meetings with legislators. Make sure that you know of any specific bills or budget issues affecting your institution or that are rather applicable to the agenda that we're all sharing for the day. Know what issues your legislators care about. Look at the committee assignments that they're on, previous legislation that they've sponsored, co-sponsored. And then I think, as Allison actually mentioned previously, it is absolutely okay to say that you don't know something. Legislators are more than happy to accept follow-up information. I previously working in Rep. Sosa's office. I can attest to the fact that he was very appreciative of that follow-up actually coming to fruition, and it's never something to be embarrassed about if there is an area that you're lacking expertise in. You can go to the next slide, Allison. In terms of what your meeting will be like, I'm sure that you have all probably at some point met with a legislative staffer instead of the member themselves. These meetings are just as important to be present at and to share your stories at because that information does get passed down to their bosses. You'll want to be concise and state your top priority or concern. I think it's really important to be cognizant of the fact that, like I said, we'll have about 5 to 10 people and 15 minutes to meet with legislators. So very important to be able to share that space with your colleagues. When sharing your priorities or concerns, it's really important to link those back to personal stories or connections that you have to that issue. Legislators really like to understand why the issue is important to the folks that are on the ground, meeting with them and advocating for their priorities. I think that it's very important to always make sure that you get an ask out of a meeting with a legislative member or a staffer. And that speaks to the last two bullet points we have here on the slide is asking the legislator to support your priority. So in this case, it's our joint university lobby day package that Joe ran through with our behavioral health workforce, our semiconductor workforce, and research needs, Strong Start funding, and the student emergency needs package. And then also ask the legislator what information or assistance you can provide. Like I said, they're very grateful for follow-up information and additional context where it's needed. So be sure to be a resource for them in that capacity as well. I know I went through that fairly quickly. I'm a fast talker. So if anybody would like some clarification or any other questions that you guys might have, we are here as a group to answer those for you. And thank you all again for being up to the task of being team captains for the lobby day. Oh, Allison, you're muted.
Yeah, then I tried to not unmute. There was a question in the chat, and I'm gonna go ahead and just answer it in case you didn't see it. When does the next revenue forecast come out? It comes out the day before. So we anticipate in the morning having a better sense. We can give you a better sense of what things look like as well. So on the 8th, we'll potentially have even new information, hopefully good information. Let's go ahead and start with questions. Fiona.
Hi, I just wanted to come on here and ask something because I have not done this before. So I wanted to see if anyone has advice for people for their first time being a team captain. Just because I don't know if I should have waited a little longer, but I can totally wait to ask. Sorry.
We are going to pair you up with someone. Everyone will have at least a partner. And actually, Kurt, or I know you're on here. Kurt, if you don't mind answering this question, I'm going to put you on the spot. I've worked with Kurt for a long time, and he's at PSU, and he's a great team captain. So I'm going to have him give you a quick, like, what you should know from his experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Do you want me to share it now, Allison?
Yes,
okay,
please.
cool.
Do you mind?
Yeah, oh, not at all. So welcome to being a team leader. It's great fun. I think the key is to be very supportive. You are the leader of this team. And so you want to be really enthusiastic, really, thankful for them to give their time, and then pretty quickly clue into what is most important to them and their experiences as it ties to the legislative agenda. Because what you're going to need to do is find maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 people that can talk per meeting, even though you may have 10 people. And you want to hone that. Not everybody's going to get the opportunity to speak. And just, I'm a double Capricorn, so I like structure. I think planning out what you're going to say in each meeting. And what I've done the last few is actually put it all in a Google Doc, right? Have one Google Doc for the team, and then just plan out, okay, who's talking on which topic, and mix it up just so it keeps interesting. And the more structure you have, the more successful you'll be in getting through all of the material in that 15 minutes.
Yeah, as a Virgo, I really appreciate that information because organization is very important. So I thank you so much. I just wanted to ask because it can be a little nerve-wracking as an undergraduate. So I thank you so much, everyone.
No, we love having you fill in that role. It's great. Actually, Kurt, if you don't mind, would you email me one of your former Google Docs that we can share with everyone who participated?
Sure, happy to, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, but I appreciate you just being willing to be put on the spot like that. Joe, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on briefly to what Kurt said, which was very true. The preparation ahead of time, even just mentally organizing these meetings and talking it through with your team is critical. But again, Fiona, just wanted to emphasize that for anyone that is newer to being a lobby day captain, you'll be grouped up with someone with more experience and can take the lead there. But just another general tip, both for team captains and participants as you go through the day, is that the first meeting is usually your test ground to figure out the flow of who's going to speak when and who kind of has the best testimony for specific topics and issues. I know we are, limited to 3 to 5 meetings total for each group, but you genuinely do get better as you go throughout the day and keep going and, having new meetings with members. And so by the second and third, most people usually find their flow and understand, what you need to do in that 15 minutes.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to get to your hand and then, but I'm going to go for one of the questions in the chat. Hey, Cassidy, I'm going to have you answer because you're one of our more recent staffers. When an advocate was particularly persuasive with a legislator or with you as staff, what made them persuasive?
I think that speaking to sort of the sentiments about organization was very, very important. I think, like Joe said, the very first meeting you're going to have, you're going to really spend that time getting the feel for how the flow is going to go throughout your meetings. But I think that in addition to just the structural organization of the flow of your meeting, sharing your story is first and foremost what legislators are wanting to hear. And I think that will be helpful to decide within your teams who might be most connected to the issue that you're advocating for. Granted that, like we've said, it's very unlikely that not every single person in the group will get to speak at every single meeting. So I think that taking stock of the depth and breadth of folks' different expertise and legislative energy, I should say, for what the topic at hand is really important. I loved hearing people's stories more than anything else. Feeling that folks are directly connected to the issue is the best way to be persuasive when it comes to passing legislation. I mean, our representatives and our senators are here to work on behalf of the people, and so it's important that the people get to express themselves when meeting with them. Anything else that anybody else would add?
No, I think you're absolutely right. The connecting to the story is the best way.
Yeah.
And then can I go again and get your question? And I'm worried I'm totally going to butcher your name, so I'm feeling very nervous right now.
It's okay. It's Nehemiah is my name.
Nehemiah.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to kind of tack on because I've had a little bit of experience with this before. And so one thing I would recommend is, first of all, get to know your team. Get to know what's going on. Where are they there? What is that makes them so passionate that they want to go and talk to these legislators? And then help them dial in their story. Because oftentimes we like to tell, we got these feelings. We want to say what we want to say, but we got to dial it in. I helped my team before when I went, and we got it down. Like basically, they had like I think they had like a 10-minute speech that they were going to give. And we're like, all right, you don't have 10 minutes, sadly. You can't take 10 minutes. We're going to dial that down to 2 minutes. So let them talk about what they're passionate about and help them dial that down to something that's very quick and mainly keeps the energy and the passion of their story. That's what you want to keep, is the story of the student.
Additional questions, folks?
Can I add on to that?
Yes.
That's fantastic, Nehemiah. Great advice there, and a good way to look as you begin organizing these meetings. I will say the team captain role also, has a subtle role during the meeting sometimes of making sure that the flow is continuing to progress throughout the meeting. Sometimes participants get nervous. Sometimes, somebody speaks for a little bit, too long, perhaps, or too short, or something in the middle. But the team captain, it's your role to really make sure that the flow is kind of staying on track and that the meeting is kind of getting to where it needs to go. And so sometimes that means jumping in and saying, hey, I know we only have 2 minutes left. Let's make sure we get to, our priorities and formalizing the ask at the end. Sometimes it's about making sure that people who might be a little bit more shy or a little bit more introverted are, getting out of their shell and not being the first people to opt out if not everyone can speak. And so you really kind of take that main organizer role of the meeting and help it flow, correctly.
And Charlie just mentioned in the chat, the lunchtime is also a great time for you to kind of prep with your team. And And as Joe noted that, I also, some of you who've been there, sometimes legislators will wander off the topic you're come to talk about. So you get to, your part of your job is to pull them back. And yeah, that like legislators are so much more excited to meet with all of you than those of us that they see all the time. You know, they see me and they're like, Allison Crouch, she's coming to talk to me about Portland State. I know what she wants. Oh my gosh. But then they're like, hey, Sky, you're new, someone new to talk to me about something completely different. Like they like that, and they like they love meeting with their constituents. They love meeting with students. You guys really are the stars of the show. If there are any further questions, we're happy to answer. We're happy to stay on for a bit longer. Anything
It looks
else?
like David Johnston had one question that we might not have. He put two at the same time, so I think we didn't get to the first one.
Okay.
He had said a couple of minutes ago, if applicable, we want to change things up to share stories that resonate specifically with that legislator. Feel free, my colleagues, to fill in as well. But I think that as long as we're able to touch upon all of our legislative priorities, I think that if you have that knowledge through prior research that someone, let's say, was on the Joint Committee on Semiconductors, I think that it's helpful to lean into that when thanking them, and then potentially when you are communicating those priorities. Does that sound right to the rest of y'all? As long as we're touching upon our entire agenda, I think is what's really important, is that we don't just silo one of those 4 priorities.
Zach?
Hey y'all, this might thank you so much for running this meeting too. Super helpful. I was wondering, this may be in the packet of information, so if this is not the right place to answer, like no problem. But just for like a little context, I know a little bit like that the short session is not really a place for like amendments and changes, and like if a bill's not kind of ready to go, it's like not, you know, unlikely to pass. I wonder, like, for us team leaders, is it helpful to know like kind of how this came about, like how this emergency relief fund package came about, who was involved, how much legislators might already know about it or might not know? So just like, is some context going to be provided, so if our team asks like questions like that, or should, you know, some other useful information for team leaders?
Yeah, and we'll get you the full, there's an issue briefing that was put out by the Oregon Student Association on this package, and we'll make sure you have all that information. Overall, though, typically speaking, a lot of these concepts are worked on for quite a while and are generally pretty baked. And if there are amendments coming, legislators typically are already working on them now because they've gotten their first draft of their concept. The official bills will be posted at 10 p.m. on Wednesday this week. If you want to look at, you know, what the universe of legislation is, it's on the legislative website. And some of these will be able to also tie to a specific bill number, which they are not tied to at this moment. Joe, I got it, Joe, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to add that unlike, say, a long session where we have more time to talk policy, most of these asks are budget asks that have either been worked on, you know, in coalition for the last few months, or were things that were left off in 2023 and that were, you know, pretty soon after the session taken, and with the focus of bringing them back in 2024. And so not a lot of this is conceptually like being developed right now during the session.
Calvin and Drew.
Yeah, Drew's on the other side of the office, but he's chilling. My question was, is there like team names or something that we have so that it's easier to meet? Like I can hold up a sign that says like Team Yellow or whatever when we're all at that lunch space so people know where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get an email with your team. So you'll get an email with your team assignment. You will have your name tag will say your team, and there will be a sign at the tables for you to find your groups. And then I also, just as a note, I want to go back to something Cassidy said. I got a question about this. So if she mentioned that sometimes you meet with staff and you think you're meeting with the legislator, and that's like, those meetings are just as important. I think actually Joe, Cassidy, and we're all former staff from the legislature. And you know, we were there in our early 20s. 2 of them might still be in their 20s. But when we're there, you might feel like, oh, how is this person really a credible voice on this? But these staff they run the building. And so they're very important to talk to, and they will share your message, and they are very influential with their bosses. So, can we answer any further questions?
One thing that I think we may have omitted in our official slides when talking about the meetings, but as part of your packets, you will be given some leave behind materials related to the policy priorities and the OCOP agenda. You will also have bags of swag to leave for offices that are intended.
We're
Oh.
dropping the swag in the morning.
Thank you, Allison. Spoke out of turn right there. Never mind. You will just have the one pagers to leave behind. We will take care of the swag.
If there's nothing else, we hope you will give you more time back in your day. We thank you so much for joining us. If you have further questions, feel free to shoot an email and we'll answer them. And
One last thing, Allison.
Yeah.
It looks like Fiona asked if they have not signed up for transportation. When can we do that? They may have missed the link. That was upon the registration link, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Fiona, I can go ahead and check that right now. And let your institution know. Okay. And so once again, thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate you doing this. We can't do this without you volunteering to help us get folks around the Capitol. So you guys help make these days happen. So thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you in about 10 days. 11 days, I can do math. Bye.
Bye, thank you so much.